Hello everyone, MetroM here to give you my review of the Victrix BFG controller. Let's get to it. So obviously I will be reviewing this from my point of view. I am a Street Fighter player, play fighting games, so I won't really be talking about the controller from a shooter's point of view, so just keep that in mind. I guess we can start with the box itself. The box is pretty cool. It has a lot of the details on the back on what it can do. You can actually see a little bit of what it can do as well. The one thing I will say is that it did not come with a manual. Anyone that saw my stream the other day testing the controller knows how much struggle I had setting up the controller. It does come with a QR code though, so you can use your phone to download the manual. The QR code will take you directly to the Victrix website. You'll have to kind of scroll down the website to find the actual manual, and even when you download it, the text on your smartphone is kind of small. So I kind of wish they added a manual inside the box. For example, since this is my first Pro controller, I didn't know that I needed to download an app / software to kind of set up the controller, the back buttons, and just configure all the other buttons as well. So it would have been nice to have a manual just to explain those type of things. Next, I'm just going to go over the case itself. The case is really nice. It has this little hook here that you can hang on to. Pretty convenient for, if you want to walk around a tournament with it. It's fairly light, won't really be annoying to hold. Inside though, it's very organized. It has all your pieces. It has your screwdriver in the back in case you need it. The controller fits nicely inside. Also, it has this little mesh compartment here. I'm assuming this is where all your wires are going to go. So yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm sure it can fit nicely in a book bag as well. So let's get to the actual controller itself. The style of this controller is awesome. It looks great. This part lights up, the pad here. I like how none of this is actually labeled. I actually think that's a really cool thing because it keeps it very clean. The start and option button. The controller is pretty light. I use a PS4 DualShock controller, and this is a little lighter than that controller. So if you actually have weak wrist, kind of like me, this controller might do you some justice. So let's go ahead and talk about all the different ways you can customize this controller. We can go ahead and start with the D-pad. I really like the diamond D-pad. I'll go ahead and get into that a little later. But there are two other D-pads that you can use. You can use the classic cross looking one, and you have this other one that kind of resembles Xbox controller, I believe. I will say it was awkward at first using this D-pad, but I did get used to it over time. The thing is, the other D-pads are a little small, so this D-pad being this size really works well for me. For movement, I will never be using the joystick, so I don't really have much to say about these, but it is pretty cool that you can flip them around. Using this screwdriver right here, you just unscrew these screws here, and then you can have this joystick up here, and have the D-pad down here. The buttons on the controller feel great to me, very responsive. They are a little smaller than the PS4 controller. I actually have a PS4 controller right here. You can see that the PS4 controller buttons are a little bigger compared to this, which can be a good thing if you're trying to press multiple, buttons. If you're trying to press two buttons, I know sometimes on the PS4 controller when I'm playing, I'll try to do a move that requires me to press square and triangle, and sometimes my thumb will just miss the triangle button. So this might help with that. I've actually never used a Fightpad before, and although the Fightpad was really fun to use, I will say it did strain my wrist a little more than the other button layout. So it did start to get a little uncomfortable after a while. So it's very comfortable in my palms. It does have these palm pads here. They're pretty soft. So yeah, my hands are very comfortable in the controller. Again, the controller is very light. The only issue I have are these gigantic triggers at the very top. My fingers feel like they're in a very high, awkward spot. These are hair triggers, so you can adjust them with these little slide things here. It doesn't really fix my issue of the triggers being so big or high up. And I don't really care for the hair triggers because I play fighting games. I feel like these things are more meant for shooters. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't really care for them. Alright, so my biggest problem with the controller, since we're talking about buttons, are the back buttons. This is because when I'm grabbing the controller, I accidentally press one of these buttons. These buttons are mapped to things like my medium kick, my light kick, things like that. So when I'm grabbing the controller and I'm playing, I'll accidentally click one of these things. You can imagine the type of things that can happen in a match when you accidentally press something you're not supposed to press. So when you're trying to play fighting games at a high level, this can be a big problem. Also, this doesn't really work well with the Fightpad because I will tend to lay the controller on my lap for support, and sometimes my leg will hit one of the back buttons. Another problem I have is that this controller, the software for the controller, is not updated. It's still in a coming soon state. So you can't even configure these back buttons at this moment. So obviously this will get updated where you will be able to configure these back buttons, which is cool. Hopefully you can just set it up where you can just cancel out these buttons. Hopefully you won't be forced to remap it to something else. So just to recap, the controller, I think the controller looks dope. I think the buttons are very responsive. I think the size of the buttons are great. The size of the controller, the weight of the controller, all amazing. A few things that I don't like. I don't like the giant triggers. Just makes my fingers feel very uncomfortable. I don't like the back buttons. I wish it came with a manual. And I was really hoping that I could use this thing to its full potential day one. But again, the software for the controller, there's just a lot of updates that are coming. Again, I do like the D-pad. The D-pad is really cool. And the controller is just really fun to use. I'm having tons of fun with the Fightpad. I'm having tons of fun just, swapping this out, flipping this, maybe using a different D-pad. So the controller is fun to use. If you also got this controller, go ahead and leave me a comment. Tell me your experiences with this controller. What are the pros and cons for yourself? But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Later, y'all.